So I might be the only person on Earth who found himself coming to WoW the way I did. A couple of months ago, I tried something new when I decided to play through the famously great RTS Warcraft 3 for the very first time here on my YouTube channel. Even though I grew up as a pretty massive fan of the moving little guys around on a map genre, and even though I had spent years as a professional YouTuber making hundreds of videos about MOBA games birthed entirely from this classic, I had never played it before myself. It was a funny quirk about my gaming history that I thought, hey, that might make for a fun video. Let's go try out Warcraft. Turns out, this is one of the greatest games of all time. Wow, why did it take so long for me to play it? It is a masterpiece. Not only did Warcraft 3 hold up surprisingly well in terms of its gameplay, art direction, and atmosphere to a point that I had to play through all of it, this game also told one of the most engrossing stories I had ever experienced. I felt like I was reading a Tolkien novel and got completely hooked on the Warcraft universe. So naturally, when I realized there is a whole world of Warcraft out there waiting for me, I figured that's got to be the next thing I play. Because if there's one thing I like more than moving little guys around on maps, it's MMORPGs. But WoW is somehow another game I have gone 20 years without playing. This time it's not my fault though. My parents' computer was nowhere near good enough for me to run WoW back when I was a kid, so I have spent the past 2 decades playing RuneScape instead. That all changes today. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the Warcraft universe for the very first time. Again, we're going to be playing through WoW, exploring the land of Azeroth with a freedom I've never experienced, and I'm super excited about this because this isn't going to be just another new player tries WoW video like I'm sure plenty others have made on YouTube. I actually have a cool perspective here that I don't think anyone else has experienced. Having just finished beating Warcraft 3 and falling in love with it, I'm someone who is eager to dive in and explore Azeroth more, while also having no idea what to expect with WoW. I'm like a kid from 2003 who just beat the Frozen Throne only to fall into a coma for 20 years, waking up now hearing there's a whole MMO built on my favorite video game universe. And considering Blizzard have been developing WoW for a full 2 decades at this point, this game must be the best it's ever been, right? Upon launching WoW for the first time, I am met with a classically great Blizzard cinematic. A guy named Anduin, who looks so real I thought this was live action, stands on a sandy cliff, seemingly haunted by a troubled past. A friendly orc approaches, trying to calm him, which makes me glad to see the Horde and Alliance have kept their peace ever since the battle at Mount Hyjal 20 years ago. I then learn that this orc is Thrall, which makes me nerd out, recognizing an old favorite character I know, although I don't totally understand what they're so pensive about, or what this gigantic sword thing is revealed in the distance. This whole cinematic does a great job of hooking me the same way all those great Warcraft 3 cinematics did, and I am pumped to make my first character. The fire hose is fully inserted in my mouth. I'm blowing and going. It's then when I'm thrust into character creation where I find myself 90% thrilled and 10% horrified at what's laid out before me. I'm thrilled at seeing all of the options I have available. Not only are all the old races I know, like trolls, dwarves, orcs, and blood elves, featured as playable factions, but there's a ton of other playable races too. I could be the joke panda guy I got from that tower defense bonus mission, or I could be a dragon, or a furry for some reason. The only downside I'm seeing, and the reason I am 10% horrified, is because they made the Draenei not ugly? When this monstrosity was featured as an auxiliary race in the Frozen Throne, I was over the moon. This is such an ugly creature, I couldn't help but love him, so why did they turn him into just another boring humanoid? This is ridiculous. Either way, I try to get over it and think hard on character selection before I settle on playing a human warrior. I'm sure this is a pretty boring choice, but I figured that I would do well as a warrior, considering I always liked playing bruisers and melee champions most in League of Legends, and I thought that picking the human race might allow me to most easily follow up on some of the characters and storylines I loved engaging with so much back in Warcraft 3. After naming my character, I am then thrust into WoW's version of Tutorial Island, and we are off on our adventure. It all begins on a ship where I'm sailing alongside Alliance soldiers in search of a lost expedition who recently went missing while exploring an uncharted island. After crash landing on said island, I have to take charge to help regather our forces and fight off the hostile wildlife. This provides a fun little opportunity to learn some of the basics of how to move, what our abilities do, and how to complete in-game quests. The tutorial can feel a little ham-fisted at times, but not any more so than Warcraft 3's, with Mr. Disembodied Voice explaining how an RTS works. Before long, I'm leveling up fast, getting tons of new abilities, and Captain Garrick teaches me some of the basics of how to play warrior, which is a neat moment. I assume she has separate dialogue lines for whatever class you choose to play. Honestly, everything does feel a little bit easy, if anything. I'm basically one-shotting most of the mobs I fight, never really losing much health even before getting tips on how to play my class. So either the tutorial has been dumbed down enough that I'm not in any real danger, or maybe warrior is just kind of simple to play. We then go on to learn the Lost Expedition is led by Captain Garrick's son, hence her eagerness to rescue them. We eventually find her son captured by a tribe of ogres who we fight off, saving him. We're then rewarded with a cutscene where Garrick's son explains that the ogres are using necromancy to raise a dragon from the dead to wreak havoc. It's our job to stop them, so I go about power farming quests to begin leveling more, searching the island to see what's available. Eventually, I help my troop infiltrate the ogre encampment to unlock the pathway to their shaman boss performing said necromancy, which is where the tutorial leads to a big finale where we queue up for a dungeon to defeat him. Going into this instance with my NPC allies, I was feeling pretty confident since I had breezed through almost all of this tutorial without ever really feeling like I was in danger. Combat was easy enough that I just dove headfirst into the dungeon, guns a-blazing, ready to defeat the ogre boss. However, I got a little too overconfident, and upon reaching the final room, in the midst of my spamming, I got two-shot by some skill. I don't even know what it was. I guess I was supposed to dodge it. This then sends me back to the start of the dungeon, but by the time I return to the boss room, there is a big gate in the way, preventing me from rejoining my team. I don't know what's going on here. I tried to open this gate and figure out what I was supposed to do, but I couldn't find a solution, so I just waited for a full 12 minutes while my NPC friends finished the bosses for me. Gonna be honest, that didn't feel great. I get that I made a mistake by not dodging the ogre's skill shots, but I should have had the chance to learn from it, right? Like, it feels as though dying should have reset the dungeon or something so I could go through it again. Instead, I beat the final mission in the cheesiest way possible, just letting all of my allies finish the job for me, which left me not totally knowing how to go through dungeons, an issue that is going to crop up later. But apart from that buggy finale, this tutorial did a fine enough job of easing me into WoW. I learned some of the basics, I killed some baddies, and got all the way to level 10, which feels nice now that I have a few abilities I can learn how to combo together. The tutorial ends when we're sent flying back home with our troop off to Stormwind, capital of the Alliance, where our real journey is about to begin. Now, in my experience, MMOs are always most fun when players set a goal for themselves. Having such huge expansive worlds filled with so many options of things to do, it can feel overwhelming or leave you lost if you don't have a goal you're striving for. And I had one goal I was trying to accomplish in playing WoW, something I set for this specific video. I wanted to get excited about another story in the world of Azeroth. I think I loved Warcraft 3 so much for many different reasons, but three big things really hooked me on the game: the story, the characters, and the setting. The story I got to experience felt like a genuinely great piece of fantasy writing. If J.R.R. Tolkien lived to see Warcraft 3, it would have blown his mind. The characters are what really made it special, though. I loved seeing Arthas's journey. The dynamic with the orcs being the bad guys who get redeemed was fascinating, and Illidan Stormrage is the most cool and handsome person I've ever seen in a video game. To top it all off, the setting of the world itself was also incredible. Azeroth was one of the most original fantasy worlds I had seen in ages. It felt like the universe was its own character in many ways, leaving me eager to explore and learn more. And since Blizzard, of course, never made a Warcraft 4, World of Warcraft must be the place where everyone got to continue the great stories of this universe. This is clearly where I'm meant to go if I want to explore Azeroth and find whatever is told next. Hence my goal. I will say I realize that playing WoW for the sake of story is a bit of a weird thing to do in today's day and age. Even though I had never played WoW before, I know what people say about it, right? The game doesn't begin until you reach max level. You're supposed to play for the endgame raids or the PvP content or whatever. And I don't doubt that the people who say that are right. I am sure that there is fantastic endgame content that Blizzard have made, but I think that something people often forget about MMOs is that nobody ever starts playing an MMO because it has great endgame content. If that were true, we'd all be playing Blade and Soul, since that PvP was so damn good. Nobody would have ever played Dofus. I swear it took like 5 years of grinding for you to reach max level in that game. No, what gets people to start playing an MMO is a much more simple act of falling in love with the world, getting lost in exploration, the story, the characters and quests. We might strive for the endgame content eventually, but it all begins with that childlike sense of wonder of getting lost in a fantastical land. Whatever the case, that is my goal. I want to get excited about whatever new stories WoW has to offer. And honestly, it shouldn't be that hard considering I am already obsessed with the world. Blizzard has a very low bar to clear for me, but no need to delay any further. Let's go ahead and hit the ground running. Entering Stormwind for the first time, the quest chain from the tutorial continued, teaching me some more basic mechanics, like how to set my Hearthstone to an inn so I can blue pill recall there whenever I want. I was also thrown into the world of specializations, which is a very big, exciting system, but one that I thought maybe I'm supposed to learn it later, since there's this option to auto-do whatever it thinks is best for me. I then go get a mount, which kind of surprises me. Mounts typically make traveling the world a lot faster, which is nice as a convenience, but normally that comes after you've explored and leveled quite a bit on foot first, right? I don't know why I'm given access to this griffin at just level 10, but it doesn't seem like it can fly, and thank goodness for that. That would make traveling around areas way too easy. Speaking of areas, holy heck, a lot has been added to the game since 2003. Back in Warcraft 3, the only land I knew existed was Kalimdor, the Eastern Kingdoms, and Northrend. So why are there so many other islands? And how did Thrall sail in a straight line due west from the Eastern Kingdoms to Kalimdor without bumping into one of these other places? That seems like a bit of an oversight. Suddenly, I'm interrupted by a message from a strange man named Rathian telling me I need to go do a quest on the Dragon Isles, which I'm a little excited about at first. Like, hey, maybe this is a new story I can dive into. But I don't really know who this person is. I don't know what the Dragon Isles are. They sure weren't in Reign of Chaos. So I decide to just ignore his quest and go off searching for something different. I walk around a little while looking at all the quests available to me, of which there are quite a few, and I read through the dialogue of each and every one carefully. I get a little worried that the game keeps on highlighting the accept button every time I look at a quest, like I'm doing something wrong by taking the time to read the dialogue somebody wrote. Most of these don't sound super interesting in terms of their narrative, so I just keep on hitting decline instead, still searching for a story that will pique my interest. Eventually, though, I bump into a quest that has a different, more important looking layout than all the others, with Anduin, that guy from the cinematic. Apparently, there's an urgent war council underway, so I should head up to Stormwind Keep, and since this seems like a much more real quest line compared to all the others, I decide to head there right away. It seems like everyone was waiting on my level 10 ass, since as soon as I walk in, Anduin says it's time to start the meeting, and I get to have a real bit of story. And hang on, wait, that's Jaina Proudmoore!
Survivors say they encountered strange and terrifying magics. And a massive Zandalari fleet.
Impossible! It's one of Sylvanas' tricks!
Sylvanas! Oh good, she's still around. I hope she's been doing well. And wait, Tiras, I swear I've heard that name before.
If I could bring Tiras back into the Alliance...
Jaina, you're the reason they left the Alliance.
Oof, okay, that's a sick burn. And I think I know exactly what he's talking about. I talked to Anduin again to accept another quest. I'm to go with Jaina to Tiras to get them back into the Alliance because they left after Jaina's father was defeated at Theramore. And oh my god, I know exactly what he's talking about. This is a storyline picking up right where Warcraft 3 left off. One of the campaigns featured in the Frozen Throne was an episodic bonus campaign where you play as Rexxar alongside the troll guy from the Dota Base Hunter song. Here, you're helping Thrall rebuild Ogrimmar, where you eventually run into a strange band of humans who keep on attacking the Horde. This is weird since humanity and the Horde have had a truce ever since the battle at Mount Hyjal, so you confront Jaina about it, but she's just as confused as you are when suddenly...
Jaina, bless the stars I've found you at last. When I heard that Lordaeron fell, I despaired. But I knew you'd find a way to escape. What is this? An ogre.
Jaina's dad is behind it all. He's from some separate land called Tiras, and seeing as he didn't get the message that we just ended racism, he's trying to wipe the orcs off the face of the planet. You then sneak away and with Jaina's blessing manage to rally horde races to a massive assault on Theramore, where you eventually kill Jaina's dad, ending the campaign with victory. That was one of the last things that you got to see in Warcraft 3 though. You don't know what happens next, but now I do. I get to see a direct continuation of the story, which is so cool that Blizzard are following up on it over 20 years later. So I go down to the dock to meet up with Jaina, where we set sail for Tiras. As we take to the seas, we're treated to a cutscene where Jaina has a nightmare vision of her father playing with her as a child one moment before calling her a murderer the next. I am so pumped watching this because I know exactly what's going on. And don't worry, Jaina, or should I call you Arthas, because you did nothing wrong. We then land in Tiras, where the locals meet Jaina and myself, as we are then dragged to see her mother. Oh boy, another surprise parent. As Jaina begs for forgiveness and asks Tiras for aid, this other lady gets mad and seemingly helps convince Jaina's mom that she should be put to death, maybe?
You are no daughter of mine.
Do what you will. She is nothing to me.
We're left with a super suspenseful cut to black as the campaign then truly begins, and holy hell, I am so excited now. Let me be clear, I kind of think that all of this looks sort of awful. Like, I hate the art direction that Blizzard took these cutscenes in, if you could say this art had any direction. Everyone just looks like a stupid Disney character for the most part. You have an Ursula ripoff over here being quite obviously evil, while Jaina went from a badass mage character model in Warcraft 3 to literally looking like Adele Dazeem from Frozen. The in-game cutscenes aren't much better either. Everyone just looks like a badly animated sim. I guarantee you, Lil Simsy could make a more dramatic cutscene if you're really insistent on animating this in The Sims 4, Blizzard. But you know what? I don't even care. This is exactly what I was asking for. Following up on old storylines from Warcraft 3 where I get to explore the lands and history that hooked me on this wonderful universe in the first place, I will ignore each and every fault, Blizzard. Just give me more of your beautiful world. Things cool off pretty quickly as we then awake in a prison with Jaina nowhere to be found. Instead, our cellmate is this Flynn character who is working for a client who's hired him to break us out of here. He's a bit of a cheeky Captain Jack Sparrow ripoff type person.
Come on, hit me.
Oh! Oh, you brute! God! God! Help! Oh!
I didn't laugh, but I can appreciate the attempt at trying to make a new likable NPC. We managed to break out of this prison that's apparently owned by that Ursula person from the previous cinematic, Lady Priscilla Ashvane and her Ashvane Trading Company. During our escape, Flynn discovers some kind of extra powerful gunpowder before leading us to freedom through the sewers. Emerging from underground, we're greeted by a big scary thing that eats some guy. Good enough reason as ever to flee further, meeting up with our rendezvous on the shoreline. Here we are introduced to Talia, Flynn's partner in crime, who sails us back to the main city of bolaris. Talia mentions Jaina a couple of times, recognizing me as her companion from before, and I'm getting excited because now I'm thinking maybe we're gonna go on some big quest to save her, but instead we get a little tour around bolaris. Okay, that didn't feel like the most pressing issue in the plot, but I appreciate it. We then meet Cyrus Crestfall, the man who orchestrated our escape, who explains a bit more about the history of Tiras and what's going on. He shares some war stories where I start to drift off and get a bit bored because I notice that my character is apparently sleepy for some reason. I don't know why. I kind of fiddle around with my UI to try to see what that's all about, and I just miss some of the story that goes completely over my head. Eventually, I get the message that Tiras is ruled by a number of different major houses, which have splintered since we smorked Jaina's dad. Her mother, Catherine Proudmoore, was left to rule ever since, but has become a bit corrupted by certain advisors like Ashvane. It then falls on us to reunite each house so that Tiras can stand proud once more and rejoin the Alliance. In other other words, this is very similar to the Greater Corund houses found in Zaya on RuneScape. I have gone through this kind of story once before. I sure as hell can do it again. Step 1 looks to be the most satisfying step, as we're meant to take down this Priscilla Ashvane character and maybe make Catherine see that she is obviously evil. Just look at her character model. Our new friends seem to believe she's doing something nefarious with that gunpowder we discovered earlier in her prison, so it's our job to figure out what scheming is going on and bring evidence to Catherine. We then travel to meet up with one of Cyrus's old buddies near the Ashvane Foundry and take some quests, which lead us to discover that Ashvane is apparently using child slaves? Come on, Blizzard, I got the message. She's the evil bad guy. You modeled her after a Disney villain. She does not need to be any more cartoonishly evil. We help free some of those urchin workers as well as the townsfolk she's also captured, taking out some guards and learning more about this gunpowder. As I go around doing all these quests, I get to see a bit more narrative dumped on me with these company messages that are broadcast by Ashvane herself. And I gotta say, I really like this little dialogue system. Why is this not in the game more? One of the things that I think made Warcraft 3's story so compelling was that you had these little dialogue boxes with character portraits showcasing individual conversations as they ping-ponged back and forth. Especially when you have a game with limited graphical capabilities, a really great bit of writing can save everything and still pull players into the narrative, so why not let them experience the dialogue one sentence at a time like it's a real movie that lets you fill all these story beats with little jokes or emotional moments. It brings you into the narrative like no other system and makes the conversations feel so real. And I'm also realizing that's the system RuneScape uses. I think that might be why I like the storytelling in RuneScape so much as well. Come on, Blizzard, if Jagex can do it, why can't you? Most of the conversations I've seen in these quests have been given to me through either the boring little speech bubbles or literal walls of text. This just diminishes your great stories and world building. Anyway, after a while, we take some more of that gunpowder stuff before meeting up with our old buddy Flynn. He then leads us to a little trading hub where we can study it further, learning it's something called azurite, which I can gather from context is going to be the magical MacGuffin driving a lot of the plot, but that's fine. Soon after, Flynn sees a smuggling ship that he's sure is carrying a bit of azurite. I am then convinced by him to stow away so we can figure out where Ashvane is sending it, but not before I am subjected to a few more jokes from Mr. Comedy Relief over here.
Oh no, I think my barrel has pee in it.
Nope, never mind. It's ale. We're good.
I don't know, I feel like the jokes are trying a little bit too hard, but whatever, it's fine. Our vessel sets sail, but doesn't stay out to sea long, as our navigator is soon tempted to sail us right into a group of jagged rocks while passing by some sirens. This means a few more quests of gathering up the crew, fighting off the sirens, and helping Flynn break free from one particularly charming lady. After we sober him up, we get back on track heading to the nearby pirate town of Freehold. There we infiltrate a gang of pirates to try and figure out where the azurite is going, only to get Flynn beat up when some old friends of his discover what he's doing, as they're apparently in league with Ashvane. Talia then shows up to save the two of us before we get our heads kicked in and just flies us to the next location to continue the quest chain. All in all, I'm gonna be honest, the story has felt a little bit like a whirlwind at this point, and I'm becoming less engaged with each following step. Like, Priscilla Ashvane is just an uninteresting character. She's just evil, obviously. That's her only defining trait, and we are going through a million different steps to prove the most obvious fact in the world. I'd maybe like the narrative more if we learned a bit more about the backstory to her, or if we got to know Flynn and Talia better, but there isn't really much fleshing out any one of the characters. It's just jumping from task to task with obstacles thrown in our way that normally aren't all that relevant to the plot. But I'm still having fun exploring this huge world, and I am eager to see how all of this leads up to us saving Jaina, so I continue pressing onward. Talia drops us off in some village where farmers are apparently being attacked by a gang of pirates. I kind of don't understand entirely how this relates to the plot, since I am now becoming a dirty casual who just clicks accept on every quest before reading it. I hate myself for doing this. Oh god, what have I become? but so many of these quests aren't real quests. They're just busy work before the next big task, so I don't feel like I'm missing much by skipping the dialogue that explains why I have to go slay 10 pirates. After helping recruit farmers to a militia to fight back against these pirates, it seems as though Ashvane has hired these invaders and supplied them with azurite to go attack these friendly Kultiran towns. I don't really understand yet what her plan is or why she's being so obviously evil, but we're about to get there. We get a few fun set pieces as we fight the pirates off, eventually stealing some azurite to drive them away for good, which I guess is also proof that Ashvane was working with them. And upon taking the azurite back to Bolaris, it's time for the reveal of Priscilla's motivations and a big confrontation.
A pirate fleet struck the gate with overwhelming force.
Pirates? The Plague Wars can't even protect us from pirates anymore!
For shame! Catherine Proudmoore has spent her life doing what's best for Kultiras.
But it has not been enough. My dear friend Priscilla and I have discussed this. I believe that what is best for Kultiras is that I step down as Lord Admiral.
I will shoulder this heavy burden. I can only hope I will be a worthy successor.
Lady Ashvane has been my rock since those first dark days when we both lost our husbands. Now she will be the kingdom's rock. Now she is
a liar! So, this was your play all along. Despicable.
What is the meaning of this, girl?
Lady Priscilla Ashvane, you are under arrest for trafficking, conspiring with pirates, and high treason against the Admiralty of Kultiras. And we have evidence. Your company made the weapons that destroyed Dalen's Gate, using this. It's called azurite, and the Alliance and Horde are already at war over it. You hired the pirate fleet, armed them to the teeth, and set them upon your own countrymen.
And I almost... Priscilla, how could you betray the kingdom? How could you betray me?
You're too weak to rule, Catherine. Your family has always been too weak. The Proudmoore legacy of failure dies with you!
Suddenly, Ashvane throws out a few smoke bombs, but me and my amigos manage to communicate and take out all the distractions, as well as most of her guards. This is followed up with a big chase sequence through the city, as it looks like I am finally about to bring the bad guy to justice, when all of a sudden...
It's over. There's nowhere left to run.
Insolent brat! This is far from over.
What? Are you serious? Come on, that's how the villain gets away? By yeeting herself off a bridge? There's no way she survived that. Why are we acting like that's the most normal thing in the world? Talia says she's gonna send a search party after Ashvane while we go back and see Catherine. Upon conversing with her for the first time since the intro, Catherine apologizes to me for how she greeted our envoy's arrival into the city. And I'm ready for some big moment where we finally get to see Jaina's release and return to the main plot. But then...
I can review the evidence against House Ashvane with you there.
Certainly. And your name is?
Talia, Mum.
Talia, of course. Our young ward from across the sea. Has it already been so long? You've grown into a valiant young woman, Talia. Your father would be proud.
That's it? Are you serious? So, is Jaina about to be executed or what? Okay, I gotta be honest, man. This quest line or chapter or whatever, it kind of feels frustrating. I was left a little bit disappointed by the end here. I'm frustrated just because it's full of so much potential. The Warcraft universe is so awesome and filled with so many stories, and I was thrilled at the idea of exploring Kul Tiras when I found this questline with Jaina. I mean, a child who's forced to let her father meet his own demise, now dealing with the fallout of her actions, even if they were justified? That's an interesting idea. And you know what? The campaign's not over. Maybe we'll get back to Jaina eventually. In the meantime, I would have also been very happy discovering the new stories and lore of all these characters thrown my way, learning about Ashvane's past, or fleshing out Talia and Flynn more. But I didn't really get to do any of that. The only thing I got to do with my allies was hear a few bad jokes from Flynn and see the most obvious sexual tension between him and Talia that it was so boring I didn't even think it was worth mentioning. I didn't get to learn anything about Ashvane either, though. She was just an obviously evil villain doing evil things because she's the antagonist. I guess I'm just disappointed because I thought in that intro cutscene that, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit my goal of finding a new exciting story in Azeroth, no problem. But now, I don't know. I feel much more frustrated than excited at how little the plot has progressed. Not to mention, to top it all off, I have to go spam side quests if I even want to continue the campaign because it won't let me go further until I reach level 20. So I go back to Cyrus and accept the first quest that's there, only to find out I have to travel to this big island in the middle of nowhere. Wait, they can't expect me to swim there on my own, can they? But I'm not seeing any fast travel. Oh god, apparently if I swim out there on my own, I get fatigued and die? Okay, that's annoying. What if I run out there to my corpse, though, with my ghost and revive it, though? That has to refill my fatigue, and then I can keep on swimming. Oh, no, apparently I'm also gonna get fatigued as a ghost. I don't know how that works. Luckily, I managed to revive my corpse and get a bit more energy so I can swim a little further, and then all of a sudden, my fatigue meter refills, so I'm able to swim all the way to my quest goal, only to find out that it's another dungeon. I didn't read the quest. Oh god, and my first dungeon went so bad, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this right. I tried to solo it to see if that's possible, but yeah, that is not something I'm gonna be able to do. I then remember Blizzard has some sort of looking for group queue that everyone always complains about on the internet as being too casual, and if that's true, why does this dungeon not show up in the dungeon section of the group finder? I am wholly upset and frustrated and humiliated at how stupid I must be to not be able to get any of these systems to work. So I return to Bolaris defeated, but find a few simpler quests to pick up and hit level 20. I'm actually pretty sad at this point in my playthrough. I just wanted to have fun in Azeroth with a new story, and it feels like I'm further than ever from reaching that goal. But luckily, unbeknownst to me at the time, my playthrough is about to turn a corner. Having just solved House Ashvane's problem and hit level 20, we have two new developments. Firstly, we are now able to return to Cyrus and Talia, who give us our next task, heading to the region of Drustvar to help out House Waycrest. Secondly, our mount can now fly, which is neat, and it makes travel easy, but wow, it is so easy now for me to bypass so much of Azeroth as I go around exploring. I am not sure how I feel about that. As I'm sailing on a ferry to reach the Drustvar town of Fallhaven, I am told that the region I'm entering is one that's a little bit spooky. Apparently the people there are very superstitious, believing in curses and plagues, which has driven away many former inhabitants. And this immediately excites me because it is already more interesting than obviously evil antagonists doing child slavery. When we land at Drustvar, I use my flying mount to go ahead to the next quest marker, getting ready to hop into more fetch quests like I've seen, when all of a sudden I discover my next quest contact is apparently frozen. There's some big effigy thing in the center of town that's casting a spell freezing all of the townsfolk, and the main task for this little chapter of the story seems to be figuring out how to destroy it. Holy hell, I love this so much. This is hooking me hard. MMOs are one of my favorite genres in gaming for storytelling, in part because they are set up to give you such great environmental stories that appear almost naturally. You spend so much time traveling to so many towns and meeting so many people that the simple act of running into something out of the ordinary that instantly piques my curiosity. I got so in a rhythm by the end of last chapter with all the characters shouting literal walls of text at me that I just just started ignoring them. But now it suddenly feels really interesting having no dialogue whatsoever, just little things that my character has to intuit from the surroundings. It got me to stop and read the quests again. I deduced from a bulletin that the mayor posted before being frozen that strange things have been happening around this town lately. I go around investigating notes left by the townsfolk while getting to see more actual dialogue boxes. Oh, hell yeah, give me more of these. Soon I learned that some strange woman in the woods is likely behind the curse afflicting this town, so I go off to confront her. At first, it looks like I've met just a typical innocent girl who says that she'll give me a bit of tea and then explain what's going on, only to reveal that she's actually the witch and she freezes me in place too. She makes reference to some strange mother who has given her this town before running off and freeing me? Okay, that doesn't really make sense. Come on, Blizzard, you could have come up with a better reason why I'm freed from her curse in this story. That feels like a pretty big plot hole. I read her notes, which reveals that I need to go destroy some lesser effigies in the woods nearby before then confronting and slaying her, which isn't too hard, and then I can go take out the big effigy thing, releasing the townspeople. This ends up triggering some big, cool-looking boss fight who makes reference to another big bad guy behind the happenings here, but as he goes down, the curse is lifted, and I am able to get back to having real conversations with real people. Now, was this little quest arc perfect? No, obviously not. The whole story is kind of busted because the witch lady should have just been able to keep me frozen like everyone else, and that would have ended the entire narrative. But this was immediately so much more interesting to me than anything else I had seen in WoW up until this point. Things are then made even more interesting as I had to meet with the head of House Waycrest, the daughter Lucille Waycrest. When I meet her, she's apparently about to be hung for being a witch who has cursed another nearby town. She proclaims her innocence and asks me to find a way to convince the villagers she's not a witch. As I go around asking them how to prove she's not a witch, they give me old superstitions like a witch can't cry, a witch can't burn, tie her to a rock and throw her in the water. If she doesn't drown, she must be a witch. As I'm reading all this, I'm rolling my eyes thinking, oh brother, these silly, stupid townsfolk and their superstitions. This is like the old Salem witch trials, right? Only then to realize, wait, maybe they're real. We did just see an actual witch who actually cursed a town. Maybe in the Warcraft universe, these really are ways to prove someone's a witch in disguise, like we saw earlier. It's such a cool subversion of expectations. And then as I go to help perform some of the more non-lethal tests to prove that somebody's not a witch, eventually I seem to stave off Lucille's execution. The constable who wanted to hang her isn't 100% convinced because the nearby town of Fletcher's Hollow is actually dealing with a witch's curse, having been overrun by monsters. We agree to take care of them for the townsfolk, so we head over to that town, helping out some of the locals and kill more of the baddies. And even though this is turning into more of those classic, boring, kill 10 enemy type fetch quests, now it makes a lot more sense in the story, so I don't actually mind them. We learn in defending the area that a whole coven of witches is behind whatever's going on in Drustvar. A matron named LeVay is here in this town specifically to explore some kind of mine that might be useful to the coven's rituals. I fight off members of the coven before discovering a way to possess one of their own big monster guys, heading into the mine to explore further and confront the boss. As I defeat the matron, she again says that the coven will triumph and Kul Tiras will fall, hinting that the story isn't done. As we return to the constable with proof that another witch was responsible for the curse, we are finally able to set Lucille free. She then takes us on a little adventure, revealing some history that ages ago, House Waycrest had fought back this coven of witches that are called the Drust, who used to call this land home. We then officially reform the Order of Embers, who were the ones that fought the Drust back then, meaning it is now our job to reassemble a new order. Gonna say it once again, this is awesome! This is exactly what I was after, learning about new lore and history and characterizing this new land. I'm having so much fun that I've forgotten about Jaina at this point. She could be executed and I wouldn't even care. Well, I mean, I obviously would care, but I'm so lost in the side quest, it's making me forget what the main quest goal was, which that's how you can tell you're having fun in an MMO. But just wait, we haven't even gotten to the best part yet. So we go around the area reassembling the Order of Embers by getting Lucille's friends to join up with us. We also weed out any witches in hiding by stabbing nearby villagers with a silver needle, which again, I think is just some sort of dumb superstition or joke, but no, some of these were actually witches. After a little ceremony officially restarting the Order, we go off and continue pushing back the Coven, attempting to find the mother of all the witches who is apparently commanding them. And I should say at this point, I am loving the main campaign so much that I am kind of intentionally ignoring any side quests I run into. I learned by now that you can tell the difference between a main story campaign quest and one of the side quests by the kind of background that the text is on when you accept one. You can also see it in your sidebar. And by now I've seen that most of the side quests are the more boring ones where I'm just told to go and kill 10 spiders because the spiders have overrun the town or whatever. That makes sense. You know, if it's optional content, I'm sure Blizzard doesn't want to invest a bunch of time making a great story because a bunch of players might just not even experience it, and that would be wasted time, right? But that does have the added side effect of me choosing to ignore almost all of the side quests. It seems like leveling up makes all the other enemies I face scale to my level, so there's no need for me to care about questing for the experience. I would rather just stay focused on the main story and engaging with the campaign. That's been my favorite part. But then I accidentally picked up this one side quest from Lucille, which tells me to go and place flowers at a grave site. I hesitate on whether I should accept it or not because so many quests like this don't really turn into anything, but this one does sound more interesting, and I guess it is free experience, so I'll just fly there and do the quest if it's nearby my next campaign objective. My next big task is to go and kill a bunch of possessed people all around this town who keep on blathering on about their mother witch. And it looks like this might be nearby that grave site, but not really. It's still pretty far away. So I think, you know what? I'm gonna just continue with the campaign. It looks like we're laying siege to Waycrest Manor, which has been overrun by witches, and this might be the big finale of the chapter of the campaign, so I decide I'm gonna abandon Lucille's quest. But then when I talk to Lucille again, I feel kind of bad, and I say, you know what? I'm sure it'll be easy, so I accept the quest and head off, seeing what it has to offer. I leave the campaign to go and find the grave that she tells me to find, placing her flowers on the site, when suddenly a ghost appears. I tell him Lucille sent me, where he then reveals that he was her former fiancé. He is a ghost, having died, but is unable to pass on into the afterlife as he doesn't actually know how he died, and asks if I can find out for him. Now, honestly, I kind of feel bad for the dude. I thought for a moment I might just lay the flowers down and then return to the main campaign, but now I'm invested. I want to find out what happened to the poor bloke, so I accept his quest. He says his ring might unlock the clues of whatever happened on his wedding day when he passed, so I go to his former wedding site to try and find the ring, where upon picking it up,
Thank you so much for coming. We are honored to have you.
I am transported back in time to his and Lucille's wedding. Alexander, still alive for the moment, is worried that Lucille's father is late to the ceremony, so we are sent off to find him in the nearby home. As we look around, we can hear that he's arguing with Lucy's mother about whether this marriage is a good idea, as apparently Alexander doesn't come from any kind of noble family like the Waycrests. Her father reminds Lucy's mom that their daughter is just following her heart the same way that they did when they got married. When I find them in their bedroom, we then learn that the Lord is only late because he lost his speech for the wedding, which we help him find so everything can commence. The two of us then make our way to the ceremony, where we get to sit and watch, and that's when it happens.
It is my honor to wed these two in the presence of the land, the sky, and the sea. Alexander, have you prepared the... Wait, what was that?
Nothing personal, kid.
Alexander! No!
Oh no, he hit him with the nothing personal, kid. God, what a terrible way to die. Alexander has been killed, and while Lucille and her father are fine, her mother is nowhere to be seen. Lord Arthur asks us to find her, so we head back into the house to search, only when we hear...
Here is your money, outlaw. Take it before anyone sees you.
Always a pleasure doing business with you, lady. Seems we have a visitor.
Greetings.
Idiot! There can be no witnesses!
Don't worry. I'll get rid of this pest. I can't
You
attack
had
that target.
Lady Waycrest is a powerful enemy. You will regret seeing this.
Now with the assassin's corpse in front of us, we are able to pick up his orders and bring them back to Alexander along with his ring. Upon showing him, he's certainly shocked, but grateful to know what has happened. Knowing the truth, he's finally free to move on into the afterlife, giving us one final task to return the ring to Lucy, begging we not tell her what occurred that day, as she has enough tragedy weighing down her heart. As we do, Lucy is shocked and thanks us for the gesture, as we are now left unable to tell her what her mother has done, giving us the burden of this knowledge. And wow, oh my god, this whole side quest was so good. I'm so glad I did it, and I'm so glad Blizzard still have it in them to tell a good story that yanks on your heartstrings. Everything about it was perfect. The story, the gameplay, the way I actually got to flesh out the characters and backstory like I wish it let me do in the first chapter with everything else. Now I actually care a lot about Lucille and want to get vengeance on her mother, and the music is so good. I swear it made me tear up as I was playing. This is exactly what I wanted when I started playing WoW. This quest is so beautiful. The only thing that pains me is that we weren't able to bring Lady Waycrest to justice. But little do I know, that is what's coming right around the corner. As I continue the main campaign, we keep pressing back against the Coven of Witches, making our way to Waycrest Manor, and as we approach, we see...
That's far enough.
Mother? Is that you?
I'm so glad you could join us, my dear. Your father has missed you so.
Oh my god, that's why they all kept on calling her mother. All of the witches and servants. It was right in front of my eyes the whole time. How did I miss it? It looks like we can get revenge after all. We take down our poor ally who's been possessed before giving chase up to Waycrest Manor. I am so happy to see that in our sidebar it's telling us our next quest is to slay Lady Waycrest, tying a nice clean bow on this whole adventure, and then... oh no, it's a dungeon! Why? Why is the finale to this wonderful quest line, the ending, such a big part of the story? Why is it a part of a dungeon? I have failed at every dungeon I've tried in this game, and I can't even figure out how to use the stupid looking for group thingy, but I can't let Lady Waycrest get away with it. What am I gonna do? When I entered Waycrest Manor for the first time, I had these NPC allies with me, so I thought maybe I could do the dungeon with them, at least for the first run to get through the quest, and then everything after that would have to be with a group of other players. But no, they run off into the corner and despawn. They aren't actually gonna fight with me. But I don't even care. I try to solo this at level 28 since I can't let Lady Waycrest win. Alexander must be avenged. My attempts at soloing the dungeon do not go as planned. I die basically every time I try to fight a mob, although sometimes I take one down with me first, and seeing as I respawn while they don't, for a little while I just try to run through the dungeon moving forward one mob and one death at a time. But then I realized that the final boss, Lady Waycrest, is not going to be something I can solo, even if I had the patience to keep going through this for hours on end. So I'm at a loss. What do? I gotta find a way to make it through this dungeon, because the story finally got me to care enough to a point that I'm gonna figure this out. In every other MMO I've played, I would have just chosen to grind some levels and get better so I could get more powerful and then come back to solo the dungeon for real. But since in WoW, all enemies apparently scale to my level, I assume that wouldn't actually work. What's the point of leveling in this game again? I then think maybe I should sit outside the dungeon and just wait to see someone else about to go in and do it, and maybe a person would let me join their party. But I only ever see one other player sitting around in the area, and since I am a true gamer, I am way too nervous for the social interaction of speaking to them. This seems like my only option though, since Waycrest Manor is also not showing up on the dungeon group finder thing, but I am determined to beat this. I refuse to give up. After a bit of Googling, I learned that other players have also had this problem and are also quite frustrated at having such an important story moment locked behind a group experience. Apparently there is a way to fix this. The reason the dungeon finder isn't showing the dungeons I'm running into is because it's only showing groups for the latest expansion. This whole quest line is from an older expansion, the Battle for Azeroth, and if I want to queue into the group finder for these dungeons, I have to go and change my timeline at someone called Chromie. This seems kind of ridiculous to me. Like, why didn't I get automatically set into this timeline when I started this campaign? Or why was this campaign available if I was in the wrong timeline? I don't really understand, but I slowly make my way back to Stormwind to change my timeline at Chromie, and there we go. I can queue for Waycrest Manor. I do hear from other WoW players that it's almost impossible to find a group through the dungeon finder for specific dungeons like this, especially in older expansions, but I don't care. I have spent 20 years playing RuneScape. A test of patience is not something that will deter me. So I queue up and wait. I try to queue for damage because that's the spec I'm running with, and seeing as there's 3 damage per team and I don't know what I'm doing, that feels like the role where I'll mess up the group least. However, 20 minutes later, and I am nowhere near to finding a group. We have no tank, no healer, and not even a full damage team yet. I slowly come to realize that finding a tank and healer is going to probably be the most difficult part of this, so I say, you know what? I'm a warrior. I will respec to tank just so I can take down Lady Waycrest because I am determined. Except then I realize I sold the only shield I had earlier in the game, and half of the tank spec skills require you to wield a shield, but I've just been using a two-hander sense. So I go off and I just choose to quest even more, leveling up, running errands through the campaign until I bump into a quest that finally gives me a shield as a reward, however many hours later. Then, finally, I queue up for the dungeon, and it still takes like 30 minutes until we get even close to filling out a full group, but I'm playing tank, we have enough damage, and then at last, it's time to take down Lady Waycrest. Let's go. I'm then teleported to the start of Waycrest Manor, and we begin making our way through the dungeon. Thankfully, I'm not the only noob in our group, and although maybe that doesn't spell anything good for our chances of finishing this, I feel a bit of camaraderie. I have no clue what I'm doing, so I follow the party leader and just mash my ability bar, trying to keep aggro from everything since I'm the tank. This guy seems to know what he's doing, so we just follow him, do whatever he says, and he seems to be making a beeline for one of the bosses. Somebody tells us that we have to get this boss to stand in the fire for extra damage. A pretty simple mechanic, and seeing as I'm the tank, I work to do exactly that. We take him down, and then, oh no, our party leader left, and he was the healer. Oh gosh, maybe he was just trying to get some drop from that boss, and now we're down to 4 players. Now I'm really nervous. I don't want to wait another hour to find a new group. I want to finish this out and defeat Lady Waycrest. So I do the only thing I know how to do as a warrior. I go forward, and I mash my ability bar. I did it! I got revenge and took down Lady Waycrest. I'm so excited at my accomplishment that I then jump into a pit where I cannot see what's happening in the final beats of the story, and my recording software really starts killing my FPS. Oh boy. This big bad guy shows up though, Gorak Toll, who says that Lady Waycrest meant nothing. He's apparently the big baddie, and by killing Lady Waycrest, we set him free. So we then go into the basement to take him down and finally finish the dungeon. I don't know, I kind of hated this. Why wasn't Lady Waycrest just the final boss? She was a pretty bad person in life. She could have been the evil boss we defeat in death. The whole setup almost seems to absolve her of any wrongdoing, like she was just a vessel for this dude. And then when we defeat Gorak Toll, he says, oh no, actually, I wasn't defeated. I was just a vessel too. Buddy, you can't keep saying that everyone we defeat is just a vessel, actually, when we beat you. Lucille thanks us though, and that's the end of the storyline. I finally did it. I completed my first WoW dungeon, taking out an evil villain who I actually hated and wanted to avenge, my friend's former lover. But you know, all of this, it kind of left me really conflicted in how I feel about World of Warcraft. I might go so far as to say World of Warcraft is the most frustrating game I've ever played, but frustrating in a good way. Because this game is great in so many areas. I came in with the goal of trying to find a new story in the world of Azeroth to care about, the way I cared about Warcraft 3, and to my surprise, WoW met those expectations with flying colors. I was immediately hooked at the continuation of Jaina's story with Kul Tiras. I still want to continue playing that out to see what happens, and it has me curious about what happened to all my other friends too. Maybe I should make new characters so I can go and see what Arthas and Kael'thas and Illidan and Sylvanas have all been up to. I hope they've been well. It wasn't just nostalgia though. Blizzard proved to me that Azeroth also has new stories with new characters that they could flesh out, leaving me genuinely invested and caring about people that I had never known before playing. I genuinely think that Drustvar, Lucille, Lady Waycrest, and Alexander are all a part of a quest line that I will never forget as long as I live. But WoW is clearly not perfect the way that Warcraft 3 was, which is why I say WoW is so frustrating, because for all the good the game has, it almost feels like there's a disconnect between its best moments and the rest of the gameplay. Like, why does this great single-player campaign chapter end with a group-only dungeon? The way that this played out, it felt like a cacophony of skills and actions that made it hard for me to focus on the narrative. I was a little more zeroed in on the gameplay. The story of finding a group, having a guy leave, finishing out the dungeon with no healer, and helping out the other players on my team was the real story that I remember from my first dungeon. I didn't really get to experience whatever the narrative was. It just felt like an odd choice. I kind of think WoW would benefit from having a story mode for dungeons, like how RuneScape has the story mode for its endgame raid, the Theater of Blood. That at least lets players not only experience a little solo narrative in going through the raid for the first time, but it also has the added benefit of teaching new players the raid's mechanics. I would have appreciated something similar here, so I didn't need to sit in the dungeon finder for an hour before finishing out the story's arc. It also felt like there was a disconnect in how the narrative ping-ponged between these super dramatic cutscenes that felt like massive plot developments, only to slow the story to a snail's pace and send me on 40 fetch quests about way less interesting, less exciting people that the game didn't even try to make me care about. I had so much fun in WoW because of Drustvar, really, but if I had only gone through the Ashvane arc, I might have felt a lot more negatively. I should also mention that as a new player, there were a lot of systems that just confused me in ways that I don't think Blizzard intended, not just with Chromie not auto-setting my campaign timeline or the other issues with the dungeon finder. The fact that talents have this auto select option, you know what that tells me as a new player, Blizzard? That tells me that this system is too complicated for a dumb new player like myself, so I should just set up your automated system and forget about it for the most part. But that just means I never go in and actually read my talents myself or figure out even what they do. At least I shouldn't really bother doing that until maybe I reach the end game. I guess I would do that if I was trying to strategize for PvP. I also eventually unlocked an option to auto cast my abilities. Like, there was this button that appeared at one point point where instead of manually choosing my abilities in combat, I could just spam that one key over and over and it would rotate through my skills for me. That's even worse. I tried that just to see if it would work, and the fact that it did really blew me away. If I had used this, I wouldn't have ever needed to learn any of my skills. There were other gameplay issues too, like getting a mount at level 10 meant I never had to travel Azeroth on foot. Getting a flying mount at level 20 meant I hardly had to spend any time on the ground. I get that these are meant to be quality of life things for new players, but come on, Blizzard. This is all just teaching me to skip through so much of the game and not bother learning any of it. Why do you want me to not play your game? I don't want to sound like a hater though. I genuinely had fun playing through this experience. I think I'm going to keep on playing WoW for at least a bit longer. Maybe I should try to max out so I can get into PvP, or maybe I should try Classic and see the differences between retail and the old version. Then again, I think my wife and daughter have probably suffered enough neglect with me beating all of Warcraft 3 for last video and then getting into WoW for this one, all for work. But anyway, if you're listening to my voice now, that means you made it all the way to the end of this video, and I appreciate you giving me your time today. I hope you felt like it was enjoyable. If you would like to see more from me, consider subscribing or leaving a comment letting me know what else you would like to see on my channel. Now that I'm on a bit of an MMO kick, that I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna go play some RuneScape next. Sailing comes out the day after I'm recording this, so maybe I could do a video on that if that won't piss off all the World of Warcraft fans who just joined the channel. But either way, whenever we meet again, thank you very much once more for watching this video. I will see you all in the next one, but until then, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.